Welcome. My name is Penelope Chatterton. Welcome to Awaken the Dream. My friends, it's a warm day, so my director, Tim, is struggling like I am, and we're going to do our best to smile and be happy and know it's not that bad, just a heat wave. My friends, Joel Goldsmith has written a book called The World is New. It's so interesting. I must tell you, every time I show up, I do reframe what he is saying, but that's what he keeps doing. He's so creative. Everything he writes, 30 books, tapes, they say the same thing, and he hits you in such a fresh, creative way that you swear you have never heard it before. So when I read The World is New, it hit me in the head about everything I've ever spoken about, but he said it so beautifully and very strongly. This is a book for those who want to take responsibility, be disciplined, walk on water, and do it now. The determined ones, I think, would appreciate The World is New. Those with passion, those who are, as I say, you can do it. You can overcome the earth plane, the human being plane, if you want to. Jesus told us that this was possible, that he, as the Christ mind, of which they try to call him Jesus Christ the man, he is a man who said, we are also the Christ. For Jesus, it was a title. We all have what he has. And as he healed, I noticed as he did the loaves and fishes and people were noticing his miracles, they came back for more. So this is a message today from Joel as well. You've got to do it yourself. Jesus sent them away. Joel will send you away saying, you can just use practitioners, you can just use healers so long. And you have to find the healer within you, which is there. It's a mirror for everyone that you meet. There's really nothing new except an expression of you showing up for the next step. The unfoldment process is one step at a time. So in The World as is New, Joel is trying to tell us that our spiritual identity is the Christ mind. We are to recognize it. We've been created, we have a cause behind us, a guide that loves us, that made us. We did not make us. God made us whole, complete, and perfect. You've heard that so many times. But now how do we get there to that allness of God when we come into a plane that is overwhelmingly filled with fear in every which way? Somehow or other we slipped off some path and ended up here. And for heaven's sakes, it's just such a challenge, especially for those who don't study spiritual work or metaphysics. I mean, we can almost excuse them because they would have no way out. We on the spiritual path have a way to realize consciousness, and I'm going to tell you how we're going to do it. We realize it by meditating. We realize that our soul powers need to be activated. It's not something you read a Bible and you read a passage. That sometimes doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you go to the real deep meaning of what that says. It can be confusing. So my friends, meditating, Joel wants 6 times a day, every time you're driving a car, every time you're chatting with someone, when you're shopping, you're aware. But you have got to be the consciousness that says, I'm awake. I know who I am right this second and every minute of every day. You are whole, complete, and perfect. So you have a job to do. It's not an easy job, Joel will tell you. It's a hard job. It takes diligence, courage. But all I know is in The World is New, Joel says, you can do it. This time around, you can overcome this plane. So he speaks of overcoming this plane with how do we think about that? We love our enemies, our brothers and sisters, our families, all in the same way, in a divine way, not a personal way. As a matter of fact, when he brings up personal love, he guards us against family love and marriage love and kid love. Yes, that's there, but in The World is New, we have to take that personal sense and turn it into a divine love where those that are intimate in our lives, as well as our neighbor, whom we don't even know, are all seen the same. There's freedom in that kind of knowledge that we are our brothers, we are all one, we're all connected in the Christ mind, and especially we all have the Christ mind. We were given that as a causative principle, brought us in, made us a law unto ourselves. So my friends, in the world is new, we have to say, okay, I'm a law. I've been given this. I have a Christ mind. Now, what do I do with it? If I am the law to everything in my universe, only I can make my life work and walk on water and feel peace, have great health, have love in my life, have all my security needs met, everything met. Because I absolutely am going to dare to stand up and say, I am a law. I'm going to see everyone with divine eyes. I am divine. Everyone comes back to you that you see. You are love. And so the love that leaves you is yours. It's so simple. It's a way to activate your spirit everywhere you go. And people notice when you're peaceful and you're just happy and you're, they just notice and they come to you. The right people come to you. And there's something else we need to talk about. This message, my friends, is not for everyone. It can frighten people. I was sitting in a restaurant the other day with my very dear friend Chella, who has been a nun, who's been on a spiritual path, who we get together and we become one in whatever our relationship is. It's very special. Talk about 2 or 3 gathered together. I mutter to her, I hope no one's listening to this conversation, because our sense of peace and love and joy and awareness is so huge because we have joined. And it's not easy, friends, to find someone on the path where you can actually sit down and be whoever you are from your soul faculty and be heard, and to get that back from your friend or your soulmate because you both are in the same place. I have had 2 people in my life that I've had those experiences with, possibly 3. But they were short-lived. They ended when they were supposed to, and then we are supposed to move on. And Joel says, you read books, you study, and you go through paths of healing and spiritual work. He said, work on them all, but don't get them all mixed up. Stay focused on one. Figure out if that's the one for you. And he also recommends if that ends, then you move on, because the universe will open the next door. This is so critical for me to share today, that whatever your need is in its and bits, the next door just opens for you. Whatever your need is will meet you if you ground yourself in the presence, if you meditate, if you recognize your spiritual identity as being the allness of God, which you are. So I love the fact that whatever I need next will just come forth. It will come into my life as I need it. Because there are so many times, think friends, how you want this and you want that, and it's so easy in this plane where we've been trained in every sense of want and finances and one-upping and ambition and looking the right way. Oh, I must mention in this book, even being a male or a female or a child or an old person or being gorgeous, those are appearances, my friends. Those, we can't look at that because then we're prone to judging. They're still divine. Everyone is divine. So we have to cut through all of the appearances on the earth plane that we have been taught are wonderful and that we all need to attain. And you know what the end result will be as you do that? Everything that you need, everything, the added things will come to you easily because you've opened that door for yourself. So let's think a little bit about tithing. Now, Joel mentioned in this book, so often in a church you're supposed to give 10% of this, that, and the other, and that is a good thing. If you can just let that go without looking for anything back, Joel will mention it's to be given. There should be nothing that you look for your offering. Tithing to Joel is gratitude. It's sharing from the heart. It's sharing your soul presence. It's being real with the folks that come into your life that you can share with. So it's interesting, it's gratitude. Tithing for Joel is worded gratitude. Do not look to give so much to get something. I think that's what he's definitely saying. You don't look to give so that there's an end result that should be what you expect. That is not how it works on the soul plane. We just give to have. It's ours as we share. So to the degree that we share, to the degree that we know who we are, is to the degree that we will be in eternity right now. What I love about this book is he says we can do it in this lifetime. So I'm all for that. And you know, I do this work. I study, I get nervous about sharing how Joel really wants this to be heard. But I do it because it's an exercise that I find as I have to go to the drawing board. My discipline takes me to studying it and reworking it and worrying about the order that it comes out of my mouth, which never comes out the way I expect it to. I try to surrender this presentation. But it wakes me up. As I do it, it's getting into my soul over and over again. So I am leading a very monastic type life. I admit in my older years, in my wisdom, it seems to be a space that I have now earned from a million different ways of living my life that are typical of all of us who go through all those stages. And so this work was given to me to do, and I'm doing it, and I feel blessed. Now, we all have a mission. And Joel again mentions, there's something inside you that is to be shared. It doesn't matter whether it's spoken, if it's written, if it's painted, if it's danced, but we all have some way to be awake. I could say awake in the dream. There is a way to remind ourselves. Think about that when you're thinking about what your mission could be. If you truly want to honor spirituality, if you truly want to be home, if you truly want to negate the earth plane, how do you get there? All right, you nullify. Not only do you nullify anything that's frightening, but you dare think about how can you remember who you are? What path can you take? If you're determined, you can find a way to be awake. Repeating something, writing something, having a small prayer group, being in some ministry. You know, the light doesn't matter. I mean, the light is with the Tao, it's with the Christ mind, it's everywhere. It's in the Tao. It's all I can say is that the light is there for everyone. It doesn't matter how you get to God as long as you rest in the presence, realize who you are. Now, your work here for consciousness, because we're all trying to raise it, is to nullify fear. To nullify, and that's so hard. Oh my gosh, what we're seeing in this day and age, I mean, there's so much stuff that's scary that we have to look beyond and see someone lost, see someone dense, see someone who needs compassion, who's just not happy. Truly, people who brag, people who boast, people who are greedy, that's not a sign of happiness, the person who presents themselves like, look at me. That is not a deep sense of peace. So compassion is helpful. See the Christ mind, nullify it, and let it go. And another thing Joel mentions, watch your TV, your radios, watch grosser types of reading. I love that expression. Yeah, I find that as you're doing this work, or for what I'm doing this work, I find there's stuff I just cannot listen to anymore. Or some of the shows I used to love that were great mysteries. If it's too scary, it's like, or if I know, there's somebody that could be in trouble, all of a sudden I'm finding those things have to go, because that does not raise my consciousness. It puts me through some sort of a ringer where then I have to undo it. So I think you'll find those kinds of activities leave you as you concentrate on the inner work you have to do, which is to die daily to everything. Die daily. Nullify. I mean, you wake up and we're in a plane where that's all we can do. It's tough. It's tough out there. There's a lot of tragedy. There's a lot of separation. And we have to remember, even the worst tragedy that we see, we remember eternal life. This helps when we see people who are lost or die early or are separated. It helps us to just remember their home. They never could die. I think Joel says there's never been a death recorded in history. No one dies. You do your work, you move to a higher plane. On the earth plane now, you want that higher plane every day. You want to keep striving to see spiritually, moment to moment, minute to minute. How are you going to do that? The world can't be new if you don't. When the world is new, everything's beautiful. You negate all of the fears, your health, all the stuff you see that you need that, from pharmaceuticals, that you'll die without it. You can let go of all that stuff. You nullify it. You become the presence. Now, remember again, you can say, oh, I want the presence. You really have to sit. And Joel says he gets the click. For me, I can tell if I'm not there. You don't just spout out an affirmation and think, oh, I'm shooting out the door, I'm all set. You really need to feel peaceful inside. Now, that's a great clue as to whether you're feeling the allness of God in the presence. See, however long it takes, just wait till you feel the presence. Say a few things to help you get there, and then listen. And let's talk about listening. Because as I was talking to my friend Chella and the monastic life, the beauty of being older and maybe having more time than some folks is that we listen. We have a chance to meditate. We have a chance to read inspirational literature. We have a chance to listen. And that, my friends, takes us right down to the voice of God. And the only voice of God comes from God. God is the voice of God. And for him to get through, and he'd love to, he's there constantly waiting for you to say hi, you must recognize that you must be quiet. You must be empty. You must be humble. Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. Be humble, know nothing, and listen. And notice, even in nature, the most amazing miracles can happen where you start to hear other dimensions working with you that you never would have dreamed of unless you surrender to that place where you're open. You've got to be open to miracles, to trees applauding, to climate, to you being safe, to knowing God drives your car when you're on a trip, to preparing from the inside so that the outer, you can depend on it, but you can depend on it only to the degree that you rest and let your soul faculties really vibrate and thrive. Feel that energy, feel the love, and it's the love we share, that's the love we have. So I think of something else Joel said in The World is New, is that your consciousness, to the degree that you are within, is the degree that your outer is going to manifest with whatever it looks like. So there's a clue as to how you're doing. Look around you, see how life looks, how your life is going, what's coming at you, what are you having to deal with? Are you working it from the inside out so that you see it differently? Because if it doesn't look right, then you need to change your mind. You need to change your perspective, your projection as to why it looks bad when it really isn't. Now, I know that sounds very far out, and there are a few people that may really want to be on this path to understand it, but if you start working this program, this soul faculty development, and then you start seeing your miracles coming to you, then you will get hooked. Then you will get hooked, because that's when the invisible world becomes so much more exciting and interesting than this one. That's the real one. We are invisible, my friends, and we are all connected, so everything we do for everyone raises consciousness. And that nullifies this planet of fear. So let's talk about our job. Yes. There's a lot that needs to be corrected here. There's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of corruption. There's just so much stuff that's not good that we need to be spiritual to help dissolve it. Consciousness can do that. It can dissolve the worst stuff. But our work has to be, because we're invisible and we're all one, is we have to keep feeding the truth to this universe. because that's what it is, and we have to find our way back. We somehow got lost. Somehow we thought we were separate, and we're not. And there's where God, as our guidance, with all of the philosophies, all of them from the light, or who use the expression light, say, look, you're guided. All of them say that. So you won't get the guidance if you don't meditate, if you don't rest in the presence. And if you want a job to do, boy, there's a big one to be done. And also you're earning your diploma for the next incarnation, for the next opportunity, because everything that you grow and learn goes with you. There's no penalty, Joel says, for what happened yesterday. By the way, churches can be a big problem with sin, because as far as Joel and mysticism is concerned, that's not something you jump on and you have someone pay for something awful they did. There is such a thing as love and forgiveness. So we don't want to dwell on punishment and feeling like that'll, well, okay, that person's put away, so now we're all set. He's done away, he's out of us. We have to realize that people can be rebuilt, people can spiritually grow and change at any phase in their life. And we have to be open to treating everyone the way we want to be treated. Let's say you did something terrible and you were behind bars and you did your inner work and you grew and you changed and you have a chance to be new. We need to give everyone that chance, because everyone is whole and complete. There's no one that wasn't created perfectly. So we have to remember that. We're all identical. Our spiritual identity is the same. And we have to recognize who we are. That's up to us. You got to think about it, you've got to meditate, and above all, you have to feel it. Because if you go deep enough, believe me, my friends, you will find peace. You will find the everlasting arms just waiting for you. And you'll say, oh, yes, I've lived a lot of years to figure this one out, but I love where it's taking me. Now, how do I remind myself? Again, I'm winding down, but how do I remind myself? Because it's hard. We have to forgive ourselves for being so inundated with all the stuff that's going on around us in this dimension. It's really not user-friendly. It's not a user-friendly planet. So we have to figure out, how do I lift myself out of that to be that whole, complete person? And how we're going to do it is to share. The love within us needs to be given away. I don't care how you do it. You have to share it to have it. That gives you a feeling within that you are really in heaven now, that you're home. There's nothing better than that feeling of sharing the love in your heart. However you do it, it does not matter. But you will know how good it is as you extend it. It is yours. And that's how you stay alive, in the allness of God, which is having everything. And that's where God gives you everything you need. Because believe me, He knows. She knows. Love knows exactly what your needs are before you do, and better than you do. I have to remind myself of that when I have a list of things I think would be good for me. And that's hard. That takes humility. That takes, I don't know everything. Got to remember that. We are empty, we're vacuums, we're empty, we're humble. And as we ask, as we meditate, as we enjoy the 2 or 3 together that we can find, which I find has been very hard. I think I've had 3 now and in a huge lifetime. A place I can go and actually rest in the loving arms of someone else who feels the same way and who knows what I know and who is working as well on consciousness. Consciousness is what we are. And we're here to share it, to give it away, to change the planet, to bring us all home is what we're all doing. And that's a beautiful assignment. So find your talent. Back to that talent. What is it you love to do? What is it you've always wanted to do but don't dare? I mean, just start writing, or dare to be imaginative. Be creative. Step out on a limb. Make life an adventure. There you go. Joel mentions that. When you step out of your comfort zone, you can have a day where you might not sleep for a night, but that might be an adventure because something's coming down the tube where you're all alive, and or something can come up the next day where, I'm in an adventure because I have surrendered to this voice and to this guidance, which is taking me to a place I never would have dreamed of. So yeah, that's how we grow. We dare to look at nature. We dare to hear things that are coming from a place you wouldn't expect to hear it, and realize you've just had a miracle because you heard something you needed to hear, and it just came in a funny way. I remember a friend who was praying deeply about a particular problem years ago, and someone dropped a newspaper on the floor, and he looked down, and the title of the article was the answer to his prayer. Somebody will say something, even in another room, that can be the answer, but you have to be open. You have to be ready for the adventure of, okay, I'm not going to settle for living like this. If it means I'm feeling poor, if I'm feeling sick, if I'm frightened, I don't want that. So you don't have to have that, my friends. Be determined on the spiritual path. It is up to you. You are the law to your life working. You've been created with the law within you to use. Now it's up to you. Everything you manifest is completely up to you, because you'll have God working with you as your guide, but you'll also know your perception and your seeing your enemies and your friends all the same are magical. And that's letting go, my friends, of an awful lot. So, the world is new. It's an adventure. You're responsible for your journey. It's all yours. You are a law unto this incarnation, and you're here to help others. You're here to love one another. You're here to share, because to the degree that you're sharing is to the degree you're having. So share a lot. Give your love away wherever you can, and know your guidance. The most important part of this is your soul faculties developing to the point where you really are listening. You're listening and you're hearing what you need to hear. And sometimes it'll sound a little wacky, but don't let that throw you. It could be just something you never had thought of, or it sounds really like, oh, I wouldn't want to do that, but yet you might be open to thinking about that if it came from within and it makes some sense and it's got a lot of love in it. So in my last couple of minutes, thank you for joining me. I appreciate Tim doing my work for me here. It is a hot day and we're having a heat wave, but you know, you might be watching this in the winter one day. It's all good, because showing up and trying, having courage, knowing there is nothing, my friends, that you cannot overcome. Nothing. You just have to want it. You have to be determined. And you can. You can make this life completely turn around. You can walk on water. You can serve. And you can be very awake in the dream. And how you do it, you will find out. Everyone has an individual way of working on this. And you will be told you have special talents. You're all unique. You're all created by God as unique individual expressions of God energy. And He wants to work with you, use you, and make you happy, because He loves us. So on that note, my friends, I want to thank you for joining me on Awaken the Dream. And I will talk to you again soon.